You're listening to the ADHD and Me podcast. I'm Joe.
And I'm Jen, and we're so excited to share the strategies we've learned while navigating life as neurodivergents.
Each week, we'll discuss topics such as relationships, careers, mental health, and a lot more.
You'll get two unique perspectives on life's challenges, successes, and everything in between.
So without further ado, here's this week's episode. Hold on.
I have to remember that I'm being recorded.
True.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Testing. Is this thing on?
Yep, it's on.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the ADHD and Me podcast. I am Jen.
And I'm Joe.
And I think you guys should stick around till the end for a shocking discovery that would change everything.
So how are we going to set up this whole first episode? Why don't you tell everyone how we're going to structure this, and then we'll get right into it.
Yes, that's a great idea. So I basically talked to Joe and I said, I cannot do a podcast like normal people because I have ADHD, right? So I will possibly derail the whole thing and go off on tangents. So to keep us in check and have like a flow of a good conversation, I have it in Q&A style. And these questions were not sent to us by anyone. They were made by us. But funny story, and I'm going to reveal this. I didn't tell him I was going to do this. I'm going off the rails, even though I have questions in front of me. However, this man, I'm like, all right, I want to sit down with you and I want us to figure out some questions for this podcast that we can ask and have it flow and just make it very personable and for people to get to know us. Because if you don't know us, then how will you? So I read the list that he so kindly did ahead of time, which was so sweet.
Printed it out and everything.
Printed it out, and it was so nice of him to do, and it was very organized. I was very impressed, and I was also shocked that he had questions so fast. And as I'm reading it, I felt as though I was reading a computer algorithm. And I'm like, these questions sound very weird, and I feel like a robot wrote this. Hey, Joe, did you use AI?
Yes, I did.
He used AI.
Why not? Come on. If you just try AI first.
I literally said to him, let's be organic here. Let's be real. Let's let them know who we are. No, we're cheating the system by using AI. So I, in true form, made him
reworded
all the questions so that they didn't sound like a computer was talking to you. Anyway, let's get started.
All right, let's kick off. First question is, who are we? Because people who are tuning in may know us and some may think we're crazy. So let's set the stage. We'll start with you. Who are you, Jen?
I am Jen.
Great. All right, next.
I am Groot. No, okay. So I'm Jen and you are?
Joe. And
we've been married for... I'm going to let you take this one because I already forgot.
10 years. We had our 10-year wedding anniversary in September of 2023.
Yes. And how long have we been together, Joe?
It is going to be, drum roll please, in March. So in just a short month, 20 years.
You heard that right, folks.
I mean, if you were wondering if we had a resume, that's it right there. 20 years. Mic drop.
And I still like this guy. Wild.
But yeah, no, we like each other more.
Oh yeah, that's weird. That's why we're doing this. Because we like each other more now. And how did we meet, Joe?
We met in high school. You know, the cliche high school sweetheart. That is us.
Do we have any children? Yes, we do. We have a cute little girl named Harper.
Not so little anymore.
No.
She's 7 going on 13. He wants a cell phone.
You know you're old when you're like, she's 7 going on.
I know it's that's a boomer thing, but
time flies.
Time flies when you have a kid.
This is true.
So what do we do for a living? Because this podcast is not our living at the current moment.
Funny story. After all these years, I don't know what he does for a living. I'm pretty sure this is like, I don't even know.
It's
Breaking Bad. Anyway, just kidding. I am a creative media director, and that means that I handle social media and coming up with ideas. And I have a team of people that do different things like photography for social, videos for social, a whole bunch of different things. And I love the company that I work for. And it has to do with books. I don't know if you could, I don't know if you're watching the video, you could see the love I have for books. And so this is really a dream job for me, and I love it.
Yeah, speaking of video, we should just interject and say, if you want the video of this podcast, the place to go is Spotify. But you can also listen to the audio on all the other platforms like Apple, so on and so forth. But back to the topic at hand, I am a project manager, which is a very generic term, and it can mean one of 100 things. But I'm a project manager for one of the big 4 tech companies, and my projects can vary, but they revolve around trust and safety and security. So that is what I currently do.
It's riveting. What inspired us to start this podcast together? We won't get into the nitty gritty, but long story short, after we discovered certain things about each other, we ended up being able to communicate better than we ever have. And we grew more and more closer, and our relationship today is great. And I'm not saying like it's always perfect. Of course, he's a pain in the butt.
You should have said before we hit record.
I think we should show a blooper reel to the real. Anyway, what was I saying?
I think what you were saying is that there was a time in our relationship where communication wasn't the forefront and the top priority, and then it became that way. It was mainly because Jenn's grown up in a very communicative household and will talk about anything. I was less communicative.
He means confrontational.
And the communication Pandora's box opened up for me, and we actually started talking back and forth and not just like one person talking, one person listening. We just started to like really find it fun to talk to each other. Like there was, we got
good conversation.
A few different times where we would talk, and then we started doing walks around the block, and then we talked a lot during walks around the block. So like naturally, I think through that, we were like, we should start a podcast. Also, I think the other thing that we've discussed in our walks and talks is that there is not enough people out there who are willing to be vulnerable on a podcast, talk about things, and there's most likely people out there who are going through or have similar, situations in their lives that are kind of closely matched to us. So why not talk about it? And even if we help a couple or a handful of people, great. Like, that would be worth it.
I was definitely craving more content that I could relate to and get help on, because we'll get deeper into it. But like when I found out my diagnosis so late in the game, I was like, where do I begin? Where do I start? How can we get through this?
Our next question: what can everyone expect from the show? What are we going to talk about? What topics are we going to cover? Is it just ADHD? Is it more than that? So from your perspective, what are some things you're excited about talking about during this podcast?
A lot of things. I think I'm most excited about, I have a list here so I don't forget a certain topic, but I'm most excited about discussing the strategies that I have learned to help me get through my day-to-day as an individual, and then also strategies with communication with you and other people, just like the mental health as a whole. I'm completely different, and I handle situations totally differently than I used to. Mental health. We'll talk about relationships, not just marriage, but just like family relationships, relationships with your friends, career, which is really fun, productivity, because that is a huge struggle for me, not so much him. Our favorite books, actually, I didn't tell you this. I want to talk about our favorite like self-help or nonfiction books that we've read throughout the years that we think would be helpful for you all to read too. Any helpful podcasts or YouTube channels that we just consume their content and it really gets us through the week. You know, I have a lot of different creators that I love, so I definitely want to talk about those.
And I think with all of those topics, we're just gonna like all the little tips and tricks we've picked up.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, we still haven't mastered all those topics, but we continue to figure out little hacks and little things to make our lives just that a little more easier. And it's constantly always changing and evolving as we, you know, as we go through lives.
It's just trial and error. But I think what the main thing is and what was a big realization for me is that he was really willing to try. And it was like a daunting thing. And it was a lot of hard times, and he was like, I'm gonna take this on, we're gonna do this. And then even though I was going through really bad mental health, I had no hope, and I was just like, you know what, he's being positive about this, and I'm going to, you know, travel with him through Mordor, and we're gonna carry this weight. He was like my someone's energy.
And I think I wasn't always willing to try because I needed to better understand you and better understand the challenges you face and how they differ from the challenges I face and have more perspective, because until that happened, it was tough to relate, or it felt like it was just like, well, I do it this way, why don't you do it that way? So I think that was a big thing as well. So next question I think is really interesting for people to get to know about, like, us outside of like career and all these tips. What are your biggest passions outside of the show and your job?
You go first.
Jenn.
Honestly, he's an enigma.
You've got a revolving door, but you know what? Mine also changed, just not as often. Not as often, because like right now.
What is it now?
Well, right now I like a lot of word games. I like crossword puzzles. I like to play Wordle. I got back into Fortnite.
Yes.
I've been playing a little Fortnite, so little video games. When it's now like tennis season just finished. Well, no, the first major of tennis season just finished. So I like to watch tennis. There's four major events, but they're only 2 weeks out of 2 weeks each. So, you know, 8 weeks out of the year,
we play together.
I'm very into tennis. Yeah, but not in the winter.
It's too cold.
Other than that, during this winter time, can you think of anything else for me? I think that's what currently.
I think you're really into YouTube. I always see you.
I'm always into YouTube.
Watching anything that has to do with like.
Yeah, I was watching that TED Talk earlier today. Yeah. What about you?
I have so many. I love to read. I love fantasy, mostly fantasy books. I am into journaling. I love crafts. I love adult coloring books. I love anime. I like video games, mostly cozy. I like Dungeons and Dragons. No, there's just
trying to think what else.
I have like a movie obsession. Like Joe knows I have like comfort movies that whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed or feeling a certain type of way or out of control, like I'm like always putting on the same.
Twilight. Pride and Prejudice. It's not
Divergent.
Divergent. Oh my gosh. Then you go to TV shows, rewatching The Summer I Turned Pretty, rewatching
Parks and Rec.
Gilmore Girls used to be one used to.
Yeah, so I have like a lot of stuff like that. But
comfort shows. Folks who are just listening to this probably want to know what's going to be the schedule. How often are we going to upload, what day of the week, etc. So why don't you bring everyone down to the list here?
Well, if you're listening to this right now, that means that we have a few episodes already on the docket for you to listen to. You do. So, and then after that, we plan on having an episode launch once per week. What day will it be, Joseph?
Wednesday.
Hump day?
Wednesdays. I don't know. I don't want to give you a time on Wednesday, but I imagine we'll aim for the morning. But also, we don't know what time zone you're in. So
Yeah,
let's just say Wednesdays.
Wednesday. And I'm very excited. It's going to be good. The next question. Oh, yeah. It's not a question at all. It's time for story time. So we have been planning on doing this podcast for over a year.
And we checked the Amazon cart. We ordered a microphone and pop filters January 4th of 2023.
Yes. That was months after.
Yeah, that was months after you started a logo.
I made a
and
logo.
a name, and we started kicking around ideas. So, I mean, if that was January 2023, we've been planning on this podcast since 2022.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's wild. And the original name was Typical Divergent. And it was a cool logo. And
really cool logo.
It had a brain. Our current one has a brain now, but it's a little different.
Color.
Yeah, it was very colorful. It's very like eye-catching. However, the name had to change. Why is that, Joe?
So we're all talking about what does it mean to live when you have a neurodivergent brain. Now,
What's the definition of neurodivergent?
I never knew what that word meant until maybe a couple of years ago. So the definition, according to when I Googled it, is that being neurodivergent means that you have a brain that works differently from the average person, or what they would call the neurotypical person. So typical divergent. It was a really cool name. But like we teased in the beginning of this episode, what I discovered was that my brain was also neurodivergent.
Dun, dun, dun.
Which was a shock, and I did not know, and Jen did not know.
Nope.
But that is all we're going to give you for now. You're going to have to listen on to the next episode.
Find out
more.
Where are you?
So yeah, we are very, very excited for that. So thank you for listening to this inaugural episode 1 of ADHD and Me, and we will see you on the next one.
Goodbye. Thanks for listening to this week's episode.
You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at ADHD and Me Podcast.
Our theme song is by @It'sOfBo.
New episodes every Wednesday.
We will see you there, or we will see you on another time.